Hello everyone, I'm Rob Smith, the the Black Quant Edge VTF here, T3 Live, and let's take a look at what we got. We keep powering into the highs, but we've got the end of the month coming here or the new month, I should say, starting on Wednesday. So we got to have all new monthly signals and whatnot here. SPY, you can see here on the 30-minute, you can see just doing this triangle like she does. Higher highs, lower lows, higher highs, lower lows, lower low on Friday, and then came rallying back up. Didn't quite make it to the highs, but if we take a look at here, I mean, there's no new actionable signal. Just still another consolidation right towards the highs to see if they want to keep powering into the end of the month. And who knows what the new allocations will look like once the month starts. But these monthly signals are exhausting, so that's important to remember. So what will happen during the week is we'll get the new weekly signals that will carry into the new month to see if we can start triggering the monthly signals as we start the month off. But for right now, SPY just in that tight triangle. You can go to the 60 here and you'll see this. Bam, 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 bam. You can draw that and keep an eye on this because this is how price discovery works. Eventually, it's got to stay out of here. And you can see that every time it's tried the price discovery, drops back in, price discovery downside, price discovery upside, price discovery downside, price discovery downside. Now we'll see if it gets through there and just keeps rocking. But certainly you can keep an eye on that triangle there. If we go to QQQ. Another thing good I want to point out here, it's important how you can see this without having to draw. Like, let's blow this up. Because once you know how to look at different time frames, you can see this without having to actually see it. And by that I mean that you can see this once I draw it. But if you go to the daily, what would a chart look like on a shorter term time frame that would be a triangle? It would look like this: an inside day followed by an outside day. What that means is a range contraction followed by a range expansion. And anytime you're going to have that, you're going to have this. Okay, let's go to QQQ. Still doing the powerhouse, but you can see this a much bigger triangle up in here. So if they want to keep rocking these babies, and as you'll see some of that IBB stuff starting to come up, still plenty of room to go test up in here. This is when a little bit more violent. So that could be good, albeit when it comes back in the middle, you'll see this. Weekly, just a doji in the sky. So the question is that doji going to be an exhaustion, start to come back up, or is it just a rest before powering higher? We're going to find out. If you go to Apple, just another doji week, and like a lot of this stuff with this VIX just drying up into nothing, still walking up and just real tight business up in here, just no new actionable signals to go on. If you go to small cappers, small cap, similar, and you can see this up in here, still trying to get out of all this business. And if we go to the weekly, you'll see this. Once again, you can see the triangle because it's an outside bar. Anytime you extend the range, that's what you're going to be looking at. So for this, we want to see if we stay inside weak, so expansion, contraction, or if we can get outside of this thing and then stay out. So we'll be keeping an eye on that as well. Broader average is still a little boring at this point. So if you go to TLT with a couple days to go, potentially is an inside month. And the reason that's been important is we want to see if this is real, this sell here, and if this is corrective activity, and then take that inside month and keep pounding this thing, or if it's actually, trying to put in a low here with the inside month and try and break back up. So far, we got a couple days left on that. If we go to SVXY and our VIX boys, potential shooting star in the monthly if it backs off a little bit more. However, it's, after this run, it's come in a little bit here. And if we go to the weekly, doji, and then not really a hammer, and just kind of stalling out in here. And wouldn't surprise me to go inside weak on that, but no new actionable signals coming into the month, except outside of maybe the shooting star. We'll see how it ends the month. Dow Jones Diamond still the big horse, and a lot of things working in there, as we know. And you can see it didn't go to the highs on Friday, but it did close higher than that, and so that's what gives that record close kind of stuff. So we'll see. So we'll see. Right whenever you close near the highs or at the highs, everything's going to look good. It's a matter of follow through and then new setup. So if we go through some Dow, you got DuPont just on the daily setup. Well, you can go the monthly here. DuPont trying to break out through all this stuff here. And anytime you have these big moves, you're just looking for a lot of things just to take out the highs, and it's right there. So it just starts off with the daily rev strat, 2-bar inside pattern, inside, and then slightly takes that out for a little price discovery downside. 2-bar pattern, see if there's a measured move if they really want to start goosing them again. If you go to Disney, you can see like a lot of this stuff just keeps tightening up with this low VIX, and so it is an inside week to see if it wants to continue this series of walking up and then retrace up, retrace, and wants to do it again. Inside week for Disney to start off. IBM the same, another inside week near the recent highs, and IBM still doing that monthly crawl like this. So all this stuff to try and take all this stuff out. So inside week for IBM still going, at least at this point. If we go to Intel last week, I talked about that inside week and being a little skeptical of it because it comes right back in the middle of this range. On the monthly, you're going to see this, the shooter, and then trying to be countered with a hammer. So that would get me a little bit more excited. And so what it did do here on the weekly is it forms a hammer next to that inside bar. So I would still now start to pay a little bit closer attention to trying to come through here, especially as the new month begins. If we go to McDonald's been getting the job done on the inside month and up all month. There you go, inside month momentum hammer. Still going, just running out of time on that signal, but you do have another inside day, and you can see how nice and steady that has been. And so when you have something like this, it's oftentimes going to be hard to day trade this stuff with lack of volatility. And so what you look for when you have a move like this is you're going to look for something very discernible like this. And instead of trying to take those signals that take it into the highs, you want to try and come off the lows of here. Like look for a buy signal here when it kicks in on the daily, here, stuff like that. So. But it is inside month and up for a couple days. You got Microsoft, Mr. Softy, here. It's tight inside week and coming into the new month, potentially an inside month. And we've seen a lot of these old school techers really start to come alive. So potential weekend monthly combo there for Microsoft to start off. If we go to Coke on the monthly, you can see this wasn't quite inside, but it's hammer next to all this stuff. And so you can see this 4-month range in here. Let's see if we can get out of there because the XLP has been on a tear. So Coke somewhat been left in the dust here. And we'll see if that has anything to say about it because Pepsi goes inside month to the upside and no problems there. And now going inside day to try and reconfirm that. Just running out a month. Once again, if we go to UNH daily momentum hammer, and you can see this triangle here if I pull it out. Like so, and so this was higher than this stuff, and so we can draw this like so as a higher level triangle like that. So starting to come up on there, and so to start off the week, it goes outside week, inside week. So expansion of the range, contraction of the range. Does it even finally get out of all this stuff? So we'll see. If you look at something like ANTM here, a little bit similar with the inside week and walking up all this kind of stuff here. It also starts off here on the daily. Is RevStrat day, inside day countered with the hammer to try and trigger that weekly. So you want to watch all those HMOs together. If we go to the trannies just stalling out near the highs, you can see that. And if you go to the monthly here, just a 3-month pattern of stalling out, but you can see here on the month, people are like, oh, it's going to fail, couldn't do it. Oh, it's going to fail, couldn't do it. Still trying to get through all this stuff. This 3rd month of trying to get through that stuff. I'll be running out a month. So if we take a look through, you got Alaska Air right near the highs again. And that would be a weekly rev strat because you go inside bar, take out the range, 2-bar pattern because both of these are inside of here. But it would be rev strat to the upside, and the reason that would work is people put their stops in obvious places like here and here and here. So we'll see if they got anything going there. You go to Delta going inside weak, and once again trying to get out of all this range here. So in the monthly, you can see the 1, 2, 3, just like the trannies, to try and get back up towards the highs. But starting off as an inside week, so we can watch them all together. Southwest Air just not a tear and going straight into the highs. So what can you say? It's all momentum there, but it is into the highs as of right now. If you go to Spirit Airlines, not so fortunate. And so this question here, you got an inside week here. And so the question is, Spirit Airlines going to keep underperforming and take that inside week and dump into here, or can it try and hold and use that to reverse back higher? If we go to the rail, CSX, again, CSX and these weeklies, all just hanging around up in here, refusing to give it up. And starting off as an inside day to see if it can finally try and push through there and then see if it can stay up there because you've got outside weeks for Norfolk Southern here. Outside week. So the question is going to go outside, inside, and start off the new month. So you got to get outside of that. Union Pac is the same, an outside week. And if you go to CNI, here, an outside weak shooter, though, coming off the high. So we'd certainly want to pay attention to that if these things start to give it up a bit and break down through that. If we go to CHRW, Trucker. Trucker's been on the move, weekly's an up, right? All that kind of stuff. And so you can see the kind of move this has had. And then if we go to JB Hunt Trucker, not so much, but what it does do here is it comes up like this on the weekly for potential momentum hammers. Tries to hit it, now comes back toward the highs to try and take that stuff out. If it does, at least in the next 2 days, you'd have that monthly hammer, weekly hammer combo. If we go to UPS, like I said, probably staying inside for a while, which it did. And this is what you can expect. When you get stuck in a big bar like here, this is what you're going to get: a new triangle series, lower low, higher high, lower low. Now just stuck in here to try and get out of that, so nothing really new on that. If you go to FedEx here, FedEx, a slight weekly hammer, just not too much to talk about. But if you go to EXPD now, EXPD does go weekly momentum hammer right on the highs. And so we can take that for what that's worth for the EXPD. If we go to the Utes, utilities picking up some steam after last week's outside week momentum hammer, which means fractal triangle that took out both sides, expansion of the range, and then that continued with the momentum hammer combining with the inside month to the upside here in the utilities. So a lot of that stuff blowing out here, but there's a couple here to take a look at. And you got EXC still inside month and up, and you can see this. And, I like to go back a ways on stuff to see where they used to be. And once again, EXE, if we can get out, use this as the bottoming triangle to try and come back up through that stuff, it's still got a little bit more room. If you go to NRG, you see this thing used to be a lot higher too. And now NRG starting off as an inside week here to try and get through all that stuff. Like so. If you go to Dominion, big comeback. Don't call it a comeback. And so you can see that was an inside bar and then followed by hammer, much like that Intel. Still a multiple inside pattern, but then it just ripped back up, which completely reversed the monthly into a 1-bar rev strat here. So still trying to get through that. I don't know how much she's got in the tank, but certainly interesting to keep an eye on. But I'd watch that at EXC and NRG. If you go to the REITs VNQ, a little bit of a mixed baggie here. The REITs here trying to move up. And you can see that here was inside day to the upside for VNQ. And on the monthly, trying to do this here. Outside month, so it would be fractal triangle, attempt to expand the range toward up into there. If you go to AVB, here's once again another outside month and just starting off the week. Here's momentum hammer on the daily, so is a IV up there. So if we look at KIM, a little bit of a different story here, as this thing is inside week towards the lows. So an SPG trying to go inside month, I believe, down in here. And so the question with SPG and stuff like this, what is this 4-month consolidation? Is this holding this to try and take a rally back up there? We're going to go down, sideways, measured move, and get clobbered. So a couple days on that, but we'll go inside month there. If you go to XME, XME stalls out on the monthly, had high hopes to keep doing this, but you can see that it goes into highs and then drops back in, goes into highs and drops back in. Not the end of the world, but on the weekly, does come off the highs and drop back in here. So the question is going to be weak enough to take this stuff out, or is this the corrective activity here and start moving back higher? You see this on the daily, momentum shooting star. So the question here, like we said before, is it going to use that momentum to pound through here, or we're just going to hold the slight lower low and come back up? If we go to gold, gold just slowly walking up here, and for the month, not a bad month for the gold. And so the question was this the heavy duty corrective activity now getting back in here to retrace all this stuff back up? If we go to silver, here, somewhat the same. Nice strong move, heavy duty corrective activity, and still trying to move higher. We just don't have any new actionable signals. And if you go to the GDX, not participating. So right now, the miners are saying no, no, no. All right. To a certain extent, albeit trying to hold this stuff up in here. So certainly want to see, how the underlier and the stocks start to behave against each other. Who's indicating what? If the underlier continues to rip, we can look for these miners to start going. And conversely, if the underlier starts to puke, you've already got these things weaker. So if we go to ABX, ABX are starting off as an inside week with GG, so a couple indications we can get out of there. If we go to steel, X goes outside weak, and so you're going to see a triangle like this that it's going to need to get out of. First of all, it's got to get outside of the outside weak. Second of all, you can see this that it's going to need to get out of. And so when you see this, we know on a fractal basis, if we go to a bigger term, you got an outside month. So the question is, how in March is X going to get outside of this range? Not bloody lightly, but we'll see, because Nucor, the same. So there's potential consolidation risk there. If we get a FCX, oh, you look so good, and then start dropping back in again. So we can take this on the monthly and go like that. Ow. But if we take a look at the weekly, you'll see this. The slight higher high. Now the question is, once it takes these guys out down into here, does it completely fall apart back down into here? Is it just going to stop all this stuff out here? We got no new actionable signals, but certainly a nice triangle to keep an eye on. If you go to the daily, it goes down just a little bit lower. Momentum shooter to start off, but that weekly can be pretty clear for you right here. If we go to the financials, FAS just stalls out on the week, and you see just tight little doji on the week up there, and XLF a little bit the same, but a little, however, slightly weaker, but it's still inside month and up for another 2 days. KRE, very similar, so not seeing too much just yet over there. If we go to JP Morgan, you can see this doji weak, right? So not doing much. It's trying to ride the top of the triangle here. You got the slight higher high, slight lower low. So just some tight ranges up in there. If you go to Bank of America, you'll see this, the slight higher high, the slight lower low. So if you break that down to your 60-minute, you'll see this. Higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. So I'd be watching this triangle here in Bank of America on the 60-minute. If you go to Citicorp, it's going to look the same. Higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low. And so how do we get out of this stuff? If we go to Wells Fargo a little tighter on this, as Wells Fargo goes inside weak here. Now the question is that the higher high inside weak exhaustion and drop back in like so. Draw this. Or can we? Is this a rest before more ripping? So we'll see how they do. And like I said, we've got a new month coming up, so we might have to wait until Wednesday to see if they start committing to any of this stuff. Go to American Express. American Express is still boring, and as you can see, it's doing the slow jiver here. But as far as day trading this thing, a little difficult. As you can see, this is a bit messy with all these shadows on here. But in the macro sense, it is slowly walking up and still has a long distance to go if it's going to take out the highs. If we go to because Visa just ripping into the highs and MA just went ripping into the highs, so nothing new there, just hanging out on the highs. So if we go to STT going inside month after an outside month, so this could be interesting come March to try and get out of this. You can see this here, like so and like so. But once again, that's an expansion and a contraction of the ranges. So if that sequence continues, maybe we get the good move coming up there. So we'll see. It's also starting off as an inside week, I believe, but really want to see that monthly. If we go to Goldman Sachs, another outside month, and that gives us a weekly like this. Higher highs, lower lows, higher highs. Now how do we get out of this? It tried to poke up, now it just goes up there and stalls out. It's even tighter on the daily, as you can see this, the slight higher highs and the slight lower low like that. So no new actionable signal. We'll just have to see how these play out next to each other. We know that we've had the strength in these insurance names, and so you can see the Allstate and Chubb. Chubb was very nice, 1 bar rev strat month here, inside bar, takes the downside, then right back to the upside. So if we look at Marsh and McLennan here, which is having a nice month, we're just coming to the end of the month, but it does set up for potential weekly momentum hammer if they want to keep ripping out of this triangle. You can see they formed this, hit it, came back, retest, and right through. So now you got momentum hammer if that's going to continue. Little guy MTG, outside bar countered with hammer, and what that means is a fractal triangle countered with a hammer. And if this range expansion goes back through that, then we can start going towards the highs. This is another one of those used to be somebody's, and I always like to have some of those on the list. Here you can see the monthly, like so. Now it's going to be strong enough to take this out. Though if you go way back. Oh, used to be somebody. I always like to have some of those in case they start coming back to somewhat what they used to be. If we go to crude oil, doing all sorts of nothing Here you can see this UCO. This is a nightmare chart. If you want to see something that you shouldn't be involved in, it looks like this. Almost no daily ranges to speak of, shadows, and just going nowhere. This is a real nightmare scenario if you're trying to trade this. What it did last week is here you've got, you had an inside week that popped up and was in conflict almost all week with that breakout because it was pretty much red on the week and falling back into this nightmare of a range. So the question here is, what is going to be the real move eventually out of this? More importantly, for not for just oil itself, but all the names in there, because we've seen while it's doing this, XLE just eroding. The market's going to highs and XLE continues to erode. Remember last week XOP was inside week and down. OIH a little better, but you can see with the market hitting new highs, these things just continue to deteriorate. And so the question is, are they going to help to fuel more of a rally if they come back, or are they going to start to be the canary in the coal mine about coming in? So we got Chevron going inside week, and you can see here that outside week here tried to hammer, couldn't do it. Outside week and now inside week. So the question here is, do we going to see something like this? Down, inside, momentum shooter, and expand this range even worse down into here to join the rest of the puker party in the oils? Or is this the corrective activity and we can finally hold to go up? Because Exxon, all sorts of trouble over here. And you can see this, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 weeks down. And just taking out the slight lower low. So, that underlier could have something to say about it, but a stalled underlier has certainly been a nightmare for these guys. If you go to APA, you can see this weekly triangle once again. Takes out these highs, then takes out these lows. It does start off as an inside day. The question is, it going to be a tough time not staying inside week with this large range. But to start off the week, if you're into that sort of thing, it is an inside day if that's the final exhaustion of this meltdown. If we go to BP, oh boy. How do you trade this? Look at this. What a nightmare. Anyway, it does go inside week here to see if it's going to try to expand that further to the downside. If you go to CLR went inside week, outside week. So when contraction, expansion. So the question is that going to go inside week or is this expansion going to continue? And you'll recall we talked about this monthly. And one of the problems with the oils is the rally they had off the lows. The inside month down here, rally, took this out. And then ever since then, that was a nice rally from under $15 to 60. So not uncommon to correct like this. The question is how far these things are going to go. Watching the underlier and watching these things melt down if the underlier continues to do nothing. If you go GPOR, and this thing, no new actionable signals either, but just right on the bought lows with the market hitting new highs. If we go to Emirata Hess, Emirata Hess does have this, it was inside week last week, then gapped up a little bit, kind of like the underlier oil itself. But you'll see it's a 2-week inside pattern. So Emirata Hess got to either take out that or that, all right, to get outside of this. But 2-week inside pattern after this debacle, and you can see the inside week was nice there. But we'll see if it wants to continue and take all this stuff out if these trends continue. If we got Murphy oil here, similar, and that's a 2-week inside pattern. We can watch either side of those 2 weeks as they start to go. OIS, potentially a little better. You had this range. You can see how well this held up for the most part comparatively, then finally tried to catch up. But this is an outside bar countered by the hammer, and so if that's a fractal triangle and can come back up, well, if these things start to come up, we can look for that hammer to get taken out. And if so, what that would create here, if it gets strong enough, is potential to rev strat month. It's right now inside month and down, so we're willing to take that thing to the downside, of course. But if this thing can rally back up through there in the next couple days, then you'd have yourself a potential rev strat month. So potential a little better for the OIS. Oxy, and Oxy here just been stuck on the monthly for a long time and dropping back in. And here, if you look at the weekly, that similar decline. Just now coming into this stuff, and on the daily you'll see this. Been watching this triangle here, and a bit of a nightmare scenario itself, except you get the hammer to go right back up towards the range, and this hammer does not kick in. But now you got another hammer off of here if there's any hope for a rally off the lows. You can see this Oxy hammer to start off the week. If we go to SM Energy, SM inside day near the recent lows, and weekly. I've been watching this triangle for a while, so the question is, are we on the bottom of the triangle? We can start to come back up. It does start off as that inside day, and you're finally going to get rid of this monthly stuff. Monthly going to close out. It's been a rough sledding over there. If you go to SU been holding up a lot better here too until Friday. Friday they said, "Oh, you're in the oil business, is ya?" Pig, right? However, for the most part, as you can see in the weekly, nowhere near the declines that we've seen on everything else. However, now you got the outside fractal triangle on that higher high, lower low to start off the week. So we'll see if they what that means is here is potentially when you see these slight higher high here. Now this thing takes all this stuff out here. Now the question is, it stay weak and come in here and go after the fill the gap and get out of here? Does it pop up and go inside day on Monday? We'll see how they all start to start the week off. You go to XEC. And XEC, you can remember, one of the ones that's been holding a lot better, but you do got a couple days on this shooter here. And once again, one of those rallies off those inside months, coming off the 70s up to 140. It wasn't surprising to see these things come back in, so we'll see how that goes off with the rest of them. If we go to let's go to oil services, Slumber was still that shooter down on the month, and on the weekly, just a slow, steady decline here. All right, still. So we got nothing new to go on there. Halliburton, as you can see, still up into this stuff, so not really falling apart comparatively. And the good thing for Halliburton would be to try and hammer on Friday and then come in and take that out here. And so you can see all this stuff here. The hammer below all this stuff takes all that stuff out. Triangle looking like so. So we'll see if there's anything to the Halliburton hammer to start off the week. Because you got Helmrich Payne, which is one of the champs, and then fell apart. It's one of those, oh, it's going to the moon, and then puke. And now this is an inside week. So inside week. So once again, we're going to try and see if this can hold these lows and use the inside week to get back up through that. Or is this a down, sideways, inside measured move and start taking all this stuff out to the downside? Because NOV, you can see this hanging a lot better. And this has been the perennial pig. When the other ones rallied, it barely did anything out of here. But now, still maintaining the green month, and nothing new on the week outside of the couple dojis here. But if you look at the daily, you're going to see this. It's pretty tight triangle business in here, but still maintaining up in this range here. No new actionable signals on that, but at this point, somewhat outperforming, so we can keep an eye on that. Or back into the triangle, which if we go to the refiner, it's going to be a lot of inside months and stuff, so not too much to go on. MPC is hammer off the potential bottom of the range on this daily to start off the week, and it's a tight inside week. And if we go to CVI, which I've been waiting for, see if we can regain this power. Still chopping along here, but it does start off as an inside week. If we go to Natty, the winter that wasn't, you guys just killed. And it is just consolidating down here at the lows that it hit. If we take this out, you'll see a little bit more of it. And you can come off of here, and you'll see this. Maybe down into there, but nothing new on that. Just the stocks, RRC, just getting pounded. No new actual signals on this stuff, but certainly like the rest of them, RRC and EQT, SWN, all these things getting pounded. So when people are trying to keep short in the top of the market, all you got to do is go to the ones that are going down, because these things have been taking care of business for you. If you go to EGN might have a little more if they keep state weakness, because remember the monthly, all those big rallies off the highs and now still doing this decline. But if they starts taking into this stuff, and we don't have a new actionable signal for that, but you can see what into here, the higher highs and the lower lows, the outside bar here. Might want to keep a gander on this here in EGN if the energies keep puking. If we go to XRT retail, and boy, what a trip this has been. They love them, they hate them. Some are good, some are bad. And so what that leaves you with, this XRT going to go inside month, depending on what happens here in the last few days of the month. Here inside, right in the middle, smack dibble of the range. How are you going to get out of that? How are you going to get out of that? Well, we're going to find out, because it's going inside month to start off. And the winners men, Costco, measured move up inside month and measured move, and there you go. And Just exhausting the month is the problem. You had Walmart come back here too, and Walmart, remember, did the RevStrat month to the downside, then closed out, then went inside week here and back up, and so now you just have this fractal weekly triangle here: higher, high, lower, low, higher, high, lower, low, higher, high, and no new actionable signal. You want to see how we can try and get out of that. Target, interesting here is we go back to that monthly, and remember we're watching this mother bar that never got taken out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then the 8th month went inside month and down, took them all out. However, now it's going inside month again to try and reclaim this whole range. So that could get pretty interesting here because it started off last week is that inside week, and now it's 2-bar inside pattern in both hammers if they want to try and bring that in. And so these horizontal lines represent an outside bar, which means it's getting back into the triangle when it's above that. All right, so you can see this, a reclaim of that, reclaim of this stuff, and so target looking a little more interesting here. If we go to big lots, BIG, notorious BIG going inside week, and with all the carnage in the retail still hanging around up in here, and that's kind of what you want to see. So either they're going to join the debacle, but you got an inside week here to start off for BIG. If we go to Casey's General Store, Casey's been chopping them up in here, but good. Down, up, down. Here, the good thing for the Casey's right here would be RevStrat week. Inside week pokes down a little bit, and so get my attention above 118.43. If we go to Deckers, ugh. Question is, done what they're going to do to her. It went down into here and tried to take these lows out, but couldn't take the lows out. Now potential hammer counters the inside bar for RevStrat month above 57.61. You can see in the daily if this is what they could do to her, and that's it. Right back in they face sideways and try and take all this stuff out. So Decker's starting to get interesting coming into the new month. You got a fossil. Yeah, fossil is a fossil, and going inside week and just had all sorts of trouble here, and like a lot of this retail, and starting off inside week. If there's any hope, it tries to get through that. Otherwise, on the way to zero or wherever it may go. If we go to Home Depot, champ, Home Depot weekly Momo hammer gets outside of this big triangle in the Dow, ripping. All right, takes all this stuff out. Just starting off as if there's any more in the tank. Weekly momentum hammer with an inside day to start off. Lowe's companies, starting off as a daily hammer, which tries to take this range out here like so, and if that comes back up, still inside month to the upside, and if this can follow suit with the Home Depot, then we'd still get maybe a little bit more in the tank there. If we go to Panera Bread up, 2-month pattern, takes them out, goes up, right, inside, outside, and then expand, and on the weekly, potential RevStrat 2-bar pattern. Inside countered with hammer, 2 these inside, see if you can get the measured move out of that. Would be real nice. If we go to RL, and part of the retail debacle, not quite a RevStrat because that wasn't inside, but if we take a look at how badly this thing's been beaten on, this big old triangle up here at 190, now come down 80. So weekly looking interesting when you look at it like so. Here, see, is this it? Can we take this hammer up and they finally take them all out and finally start to retrace up in here? So I'd keep an eye on that hammer above that weekly hammer. Ross Stores still champ, and an outside weak fractal triangle up in here, and you can see that on a daily like this. Here, kind of like the XRT itself on the daily. So the question is, what is this? Is this a continuation up, measured move, and keep ripping? So far, it's held very well. Like TJ Maxx is very similar, and TJ Maxx goes inside day and close to taking that outside weak hammer to the upside. So these things, with a lot of that retail getting crushed, still maintaining what they've been doing. If we go to Starbucks, you can see this middle of the range kind of thing here, but you do have that lower low here. The question is, now that we're back into this outside bar, can this doji week start to perk it up? And if you look at the day here, you see there's a RevStrat day. Inside day countered with hammer. So what is this? 4-bar pattern here. Sideways, sideways, sideways. Inside range attempt to the downside failed. So at least you can try and see if it can get up through there and get through 58 if there's anything more in the tank off the RevStrat day. If you go to Captain Sig, SIG, ow, and we know how to peg this thing's been, right? And you can see how it went up, slight higher high, inside month down. Now you take that slightly to the downside down in here, so it gets a little more interesting if they want to try and bring this thing back. It's also another rev strat because it opens and closes within the inside bar. 2-bar weekly pattern off slight lower lows. So certainly an interesting spot here to see if this is the continuation triangle or it falls apart and keeps getting killed or tries to reverse here for the new month. If we go to the IBB inside week, and remember on the monthly, it's trying to get out of this stuff. Finally gets out of that bar. So the question, now it's still starting to move. So it never took that out. Remember that one inside month and up, but then backed off on the Trump tweet. But since then has been able to move up. So it starts off as an inside week and an inside day. XLV been a lot stronger, and that's been your old school drugs, your Mercks and your Pfizer's and all that stuff, and Lilly. All that stuff, we just don't have any new actionable signals over there. But if we go to the big boys of the bio, GILD, is it finally time? It's GILD, and we'll get rid of all these spider web for you. Get out of here. As you can see, just orderly debacle. Now, the question here, whenever you see something like this, whenever you see him walking down something like this here, and then you have this bar like this, the question is this the final wipeout? Is that the guys who finally can't take it anymore, or is it just going to be more of the same? Inside week, certainly going to be interesting to start off the week and the new month with GILD like in that condition. If we go to BIIB, actually had a bad tick in IBB on that on Friday, and you can see that here in the 60. So it is what it is. But if we go to the bigger chart anyway, in the monthly, you can see how this still stuck and all in here. How are we going to get out of this stuff? And for the weekly, we'll show that as a hammer. It's not really, but we got nothing new in here. Outside of this triangle, we can keep an eye on here if things start running and take out this series of lower highs in here and get additional actionable signals. So we'll see how that goes. If you go to Celgene finally going to go inside month again. Here, right? And so you got 3 months completely within this bar's range. So the hopes is if this IBB starts perking up here, you go up sideways and get the measured move and start ripping again. But we'll see how that inside month breaks. If we go to Regeneron, really drying up into nothing, another inside month, and 3 months completely within this bar's range and nowhere near taking it out. So we'll just have to see if all things start heating up at the same time or more of the same, because Amgen taking care of business. Amgen didn't have an actionable signal, but it's been green all month. Just a little tough off the daily because a lot of that was gap here and then gap and sit and just trying to chop its way up. Still outperforming of those other ones, just no new actionable signal to go on. If you go to some of the related shares, you got ABC in the monthly, came off of this lower low, then takes all these guys out, so don't want to cap it just yet, but here's your big monthly triangle to see if this is corrective activity of this down move and then repuke, or can it get through here and to start off the week? You can start off as an inside week, and you can see this triangle in here that represents that other one. If you go to AstraZeneca, remember we've been watching this triangle for a long time. This is a big weekly triangle, and now you're going inside week here to see if there's any more in the tank, because we've seen a lot of this stuff, Abbott Labs and all these kind of things really move out, so keep an eye on this AstraZeneca here, AZN. If you go to blue, nothing new really on the blue except that, like I said, they used to be somebody's way off the highs and just slowly drifting, creeping back higher. So we can continue to look for additional actionable signals to see if that kind of series is going to continue. If you go to EGRX, EGRX going inside month, outside month, inside month, and all 3 completely within this bar's range. So that's starting to get interesting. As I've brought up before, this daily triangle, and now just doing this slow grinder walking up. So ideally, you prefer to come off of here, right, as opposed to here where it stops going. But if that inside month gets taken out, maybe this thing starts to accelerate back up through this stuff, as it is retracing a good portion of that. If we go to ESPR, this ESPR inside day, and this nice move off of here. This has been a great one once that thing started to take off. Now just chopping them up and going inside day, but that's, when you go back on the, used to be somebody, big rev strat up monthly here, puker, but used to be 120, so if anything is cooking in what they got, maybe she keeps it going, because if we go to the weekly, got this small, not inside, but somewhat weekly momentum hammer. But inside day to start there, just one to keep an eye on if they start moving. Jazz Farm going inside week, and you can see this big weekly triangle here. So the question is, now that you've taken this out, does it stall here? Like so, the slight higher high into that, or do we still start powering up? Because on a big monthly basis, you'll see this. Remember that inside month calls the low so far here, and now that it's above this, now it's got to take a shot at this stuff, but you got an inside week to start off. If you go to Mylan, trying to come out of the ashes as well. Remember, this is inside month, and then went up and didn't do much, and went 2-month pattern to the upside, which it is right now, and not quite an inside week, but if that's just a nice rest, you can go up sideways measured movements, keep coming up into here. So we can keep an eye on that. If you go to the daily, you'll see this here. I don't think it's quite an inside day. No, not quite. But you can see this tight range in here. And this is what I'm talking about if we get a measured move. The up, the sideways, and then more of this business if they start coming gangbusters in there. Perigo, I've been talking about this for a while too. If you go to the monthly, the old used to be somebody, and now going to try and go inside month to try and start regaining all this stuff, because it has had a nice little move off the lows here, and now goes inside week to see if it can start challenging any of this stuff. If this is indeed, when you see something like this and then it blows through it and comes back, if that was the final, I can't take it anymore into here, maybe we get a measured move out of the Perigo. We keep an eye on that too. Perigo weekly and potentially monthly combination. Rare, and the rare 1, 2, 3 months completely within this bar's range. All right, would be rev strat here, right? When it goes 78.59, you're right there. You just only got a 2 days, but you do have all of this consolidation to try and get out of. So we'll keep an eye on that as well. Rare looking like this on the daily, so we want to see if we can get out of this triangle here, all right? Start ripping through here, but we'll have to see. Or we can drop back in, go back to the lows. I don't care, as long as you start moving. Other was a great comebacker here and just took. This is why you want to be aware of these potential exhaustions when you take out certain highs and it comes back in. Question is, there's just a little corrective activity of that, or should I say some mighty corrective activity, because you're going to have a tough time not being inside weak if it does go up. However, it does start off the week like this. Hammer, then inside day if they want to. If this is a one-time deal, or inside day and measured move and clobber this thing. We can keep an eye on that either way. If you go to XLK, still going, and how they want to hate the tax, but they just do not stop. And you see the monthly once again right near the highs. Semiconductors, SMH, to a lesser extent, but still on the weekly, putting in the higher lows. Just like I said, when you get into these highs, it's a matter of whether that momentum continues, and I'll get to some momentum names in a second. If we go to the ones everybody wants to look at, Facebook took that inside week up very slightly. So bumping on new all-time highs, and I got a 2-bar inside day pattern to start off the week to see if it wants to take either that out or that out. If you go to Amazon daily hammer after an outside bar, so that would be a fractal triangle back up if we can take it out. It's just getting a little dicey up in here as you're skirting some slight higher highs is all, and the weekly doing nothing. So if you go to the weekly, here was doji week, so we'll see how that hammer starts off the week anyway. If we go to Netflix, we got the inside week. Now Netflix does this higher high, lower low, higher high, lower low, all the way back up. Now the question, can it get through that stuff, or is this inside week gonna call it? But we'll see. Inside week, and to start off, get an inside day out of that thing. Yes, inside day and inside week. You can see it's been quite the creeper up in here, but now you got an inside week to keep an eye on. If we go to Google inside day, but more importantly, Google going to go inside month here. It's still trying to drive towards the highs. Doji on the week, so not much there, but we're going to keep an eye on that monthly coming up here in a couple days. Go to Adobe, and here's some of this tech Momo, and Adobe just cranking. And on the weekly, just momentum hammer. If there's more in the tank to really jam these things. Adobe, you've got Autodesk here going momentum hammer on the highs. Then the Akamai, which we knew was going to be in trouble with this, trying to get outside of this week. And if you look at the daily, this is what I talk about. When it's still inside a bar, you can expect this choppy action. You get killed in here, right? And then 1, 2, 3, 4 days in this bar's range. However, what that does give us now is an inside week to start to see if we can go down, sideways, measured move, and expand this thing and get killed, or is it going to try and pop back up? Either way, or to the upside. It'd be a tough time not being a 3-bar pattern, but we do have a tight inside week now to see if they want to make another decision over there. If we go to AMD went slight inside week and up, didn't go gangbusters, but it is still for a couple more days. You got the inside month and up, which was a nice move. And starting off the week is an inside day to see if it drops back into this triangle or up, sideways measured move and get more in the tank, because that would be a daily weekly combo, just a monthly about to expire. If we go to FTNT, here, an FTNT holding this gap, right, which is good. So the question is, now that it's held it, can we go take a shot towards the highs? And if you go to the weekly, it's a slight rev strat, inside bar, and then opens and closes back in that inside bar to see if these 3 dojis are long enough rest for this to try and crank back higher. So we'll see how that goes. If we go to Corning, GLW, another momentum weekly hammer on the highs. And if you go back, way back in the Wayback Machine, you can see this monthly breaking out of all that stuff, but Corning used to be somebody. There was a time. And so the question is it finally time to break through all this stuff and start roaring into this? Well, we're going to find out at least on a weekly basis off that momentum weekly hammer if there's more in the old tech tank. If we go to Hewlett-Packard, and Hewlett-Packard, once again, there's another old schooler coming up. It does go out on the highs of the week. All right, and then the monthly, it's nice like this. Slight higher high, slight lower low, but still higher than that. Doji and bam. So if there's anything more in the tank, you're starting off as an inside day to see if they want to continue that fun. IDCC, and IDCC gets the smackdown after being a real champ. And what that did was it went 1-bar rev strat. When it did that, inside month, went to the upside and then completely reversed it by taking that out. So it's going to be an outside month. You can't change that. Still rev strat month, below 87.25 where it is. So we'll just see if it's got enough to go down inside day and measured move and really get killed out of here, which would be nice, except for long shareholders. If we go to NTAP going inside day, and NTAP, another used to be somebody, if you go to the monthly. But if we just go to the weekly, just another inside week here to see if this is going to continue here. You can see the triangle layout, but good in here. Make sure they're gone. Comes up through here, so still walking up a higher series as of now. Inside week and tap. Go to NVIDIA, and NVIDIA, remember, that went inside month to the upside for a nice move, then slight higher high, which alerted us to potential exhaustion. Then went weekly shooter, which was a beaut, and right back down, so we were able to take that. Here's your upper level triangle of this, the higher high, the lower low, the higher high, the lower low. Big range to not be an inside week this week. So what this drop does is not only make it go outside month, but if it starts rallying back into here, then you've got another huge range to not be inside, outside, inside month C in April. Now, granted, there's been enough range movement in there to trade it, but you always want to be aware if something's going inside on a longer-term time frame, because that's when the ranges are going to start to contract. Back to old school, Oracle getting the job done. Still a few days on the inside month and up, but you can see how strong that has been, and that's been a real nice inside month and up, really picking up some steam. And that's why when you see those inside months, you're just looking for this stuff. And once again, it can be tough if you're trying to buy it as breakout into highs when it's grinding like this, and so that's why you want to look, and when you buy stuff, you want to try and come off of here and here and here and here, as opposed to going directly into the highs. If we go to Pandora, not doing much, but Pandora is an inside week, and the reason that's important here is because of the potential combination here of the monthly break or the 2-month pattern, if this thing's ever going to do anything. If we go to PFPT, proof print monthly shooter, where it couldn't take out those highs, and so the question is going to try and drop back in here, and so we just want to look if there's any discernible broadening formation, and there is. So the question here is this stop all these guys out and can pop right back up for upper level triangle, or does that shooter kick in for the month, take that out, or worse, down into here? So I'd keep an eye on this triangle if you see this thing start to move. SNPS. holds a gap higher like so. The gap causes the monthly to be bright screaming green, and then the sitting up there doing nothing gives you the inside week if they want to continue this baby. And here's just what a continuation triangle looks like. Stop them out, go inside, all the way back up. If we go to Symantec, inside week here as well. And if we take a look at that monthly, remember what that thing did. The rev strat month off the lows, the measured move off the inside month, the corrective activity, the inside month, and up. And so to get out of this, completely out of this triangle, now you got an inside week to see if there's any more in the tank there, but that thing's been up too. VeriSign, VRSN, goes inside month to the upside, still trying to get out of all this business, but to start off the week, you do have the inside week to see if that can finally take some of that stuff out. It had a shenanigan day here. All this stuff is stuck in here. That's why you want to wait. When you see something like this, you want to wait for those longer term signals because you can go and get killed in here, right? But now you have the potential of the weekly monthly combo. If you go to Western Digi on the weekly, 1, 2, 3, 4 weeks completely within this bar's range. It went inside, stalled out, and then drifts lower. But now you got a hammer, and not uncommon to come right back up into this range, as it's going to form an inside month either way, or well, inside month pretty much almost for sure. But ideally, what that can do is you can get that powers back up through here. That would set up the inside hammer. So right now, a weekly hammer in Western Digi. Keep an eye on. If you go to Yahoo, just another inside week here to keep an eye on, just running out a month. Just a few more here to keep an eye on. And like I said, we want to get this month closed out. But if you go to CACC here, this is an inside week. And if it works to the upside, potentially the Rev Strat month here, still trying to get out of this somewhat tighter range monthly pattern. But it went inside month and down, but didn't fall apart. Holds two bar pattern. So I want to see if this thing can set up the Rev Strat month. If you go to GoDaddy is slightly month to the upside and starting off as an inside week here. See if we can get outside this outside week. If you go to Honeywell, another weekly momentum hammer on the highs. If you go to KBH in the home builders, and KBH, remember this monthly, we were watching this forever to try and get through there, which it has. And now it holds. It's slightly trying to take that inside month to the upside, but you can see now that it's broken this. With the home builders on the move, we want to see if this thing starts making some more aggressive moves. Remember, home builders used to be a lot higher too. If we go to LVS monthly could still below that shooter and still setting a potential doji shooter. The thing that's important here is you had this Rev Strat that didn't fall apart here inside bar counter with the shooter, and now that's countering with a hammer trying to come off the low. So I certainly would pay attention to LVS above 52.36 this week. If we go to McKesson, once again, that inside stuff where you couldn't get outside of this week, 1, 2, 3, 4, you can get killed in here. However, now as things start, the price discovery starts working again, lower low, higher high, lower low, up into here. The question is this momentum hammer strong enough to finally try and extend this range? As you look at the monthly, 1, 2, 3, 4 months. And if it doesn't, you still would have an inside month after an outside month to keep an eye on to try and take a shot at that or that finally. If we go to Mondelez, with all the shenanigans going on over there, potential Rev Strat month, hammer counters, counters inside month. And on the weekly, it does this. Remember this inside week after this. So the question down, if that's not real and we finally get that move up, we can look at that measured move out of this, and that would be real nice. So we can keep an eye on Mondelez. Obviously, there's a lot of news around those things. But Owens, Illinois, OII, just an inside week here, but trying to get outside of this stuff. Here, you can see this long range here, and this is the weekly chart here. And once again, so it's another monthly that used to be somebody. It's also an inside day to try and trigger the inside week. So there's your big monthly stuff like this. And your inside day to try and trigger the weeks to start it off. Soda Pop, and remember the Sody Pop. They wrote her off for dead until it went Rev Strat month here, and then bam, all right. if we go to the weekly, had the inside week here, it's just still going up. Now you got the hammer counters, the shooter, so they blow them out to the upside, blow them out to the downside. Still would stick with this and look for it above that hammer there. Last but not least, Tesla. So Tesla did the heck of a move the inside week. What a move, right? Off of that, another inside week here now. And when shooting star, then the earnings came out. So you got the slight higher highs off of that and drop in. So if we go to the monthly, you can look at this here, potentially for the shooter, which means that here, so it's the 286.65, 287, slight higher, just missed that. So potentially, even if it rallies, it's got a big move to not be an inside month. And then if it does take this out, we're still going to respect that monthly shooter if it can take that out. Still has some work to do, but certainly after the move that it made, wouldn't surprise me to start walking back up again. But we're definitely going to pay attention to that shooter should it kick in. All right, that's going to do it for today. So we've got the end of the week, end of the month. Weeklies will be in force by the time the month starts on Wednesday. And then we'll see what's in motion to start off the month and see if there's any new allocations and all that kind of fun stuff. All right, hope everybody has a great weekend. I'm Rob Smith in the Black Quant VTF Air T3 Live.